Okay, so we're going to look at the first part, and today we're only really focusing on the claim. And when I show you the practice question, it'll make more sense. But so if we're looking at the rubric, it's a 6-point rubric. There's 6 possible points. The most points on any free response question. So getting the points is really important. The first thing is your claim and your thesis. So it's going to ask you to make a claim and provide a line of reasoning for that claim. It'll give you usually 2 or 3 choices, or ask you which one might be best. So it's going to give you some choices. It's going to give you options. You have to choose your claim. It's going to be your claim. What's your claim going to be? And then also you have to provide a line of reasoning behind that. So just basically restating the prompt is not going to get you a point. Okay? This point is so important on the free response question because if you don't get this point, the most points you can get is a 1 out of 6. Okay? If you don't get the first point, the most points you can get is a 1 out of 6. You don't want a 1 out of 6. You want 6 out of 6. So you have to respond to the prompt with a defensible claim, something that can be defended, or a thesis that establishes a line of reasoning. So simply restating the prompt will not get you a point. You have to make a claim and provide a line of reasoning, and we'll look at that here in a second. Okay. The claim or thesis responds to the prompt rather than restating or rephrasing the prompt and establishes a line of reasoning. You have some additional notes. Claim or thesis must consist of 1 or more sentences. I say like 2 sentences, maybe 3, depending on how you write your claim in your line of reasoning. If your claim's 1 sentence and your line of reasoning is a second sentence, then I would say 3 sentences. I think you should definitely restate the prompt first, just to put you in the right mode of answering the question. But definitely make a claim and provide a line of reasoning. Could be the same sentence, could be 2 different sentences. A claim or thesis that meets the criteria can be awarded the point whether or not the rest of the response successfully supports that line of reasoning, which that's not what we want. We want evidence and reasoning that will support our claim. So I'm not going to get too much into the evidence. Row B is the evidence. And when we look at the question, the first piece of evidence is given to you. You have to use one of the 3 required documents. So that's why the required documents are so important, understanding those, because you're going to have to use evidence from one of those required documents to support your claim. Okay. The second piece of evidence can come from any other required document. It could be a Supreme Court case. It could be anything that we've talked about in AP government, anything that relates to your understanding of AP government. But we want 3 out of 3 of this. We're not going to worry about 0, 1, or 2. What do we have to do to get 3? Uses 2 pieces of specific and relevant evidence to support the claim or thesis. So 2 pieces of evidence. You have to have 2 pieces of evidence that supports your claim or thesis. Okay? Yes?
Does it have to be like a quote or just like an idea from the...
Either or. It could be either or. It could be just an idea from that document that supports your claim. It does not have to be a specific quote. You could use a specific quote, which would be great if you could, but it doesn't have to be a specific quote. It could just be a general idea. It could be an argument the author is making in his essay that would support your claim. Okay. So must provide 2 pieces of specific and relevant evidence that support the claim or thesis. One of the pieces of evidence must come from a foundational document listed in the prompt. We'll look at this in a minute. The other piece of evidence can come from a different foundational document or from your knowledge of course concepts. Okay? But the most important thing is 2 pieces of evidence that support your claim. If it only ties into the question, it gets you 1 point. If it supports your claim, it's going to get you 3 points, which is what you want, obviously. Okay, so to earn the points, the responses must use one of the foundational documents listed in the problem. We'll look at that in a minute. So that's 4 points right there. One for your thesis with a line of your claim with a line of reasoning. 3 for using 2 specific pieces of evidence that support your claim. The 5th point is going to come from your reasoning. So you have to reason, you have to explain how that evidence supports your claim. Okay, using the evidence to support your claim, just using the evidence to support your claim is going to get you 3 points. Explaining how that evidence supports your claim is going to get you an additional point. Okay, so this is your reasoning, your claim, your evidence, reasoning for both your piece of evidence. The explanation how it supports how the evidence supports your claim. And we'll look at that more in a minute. We're not going to get into all this today. We're just going to look at the claim because I think establishing a claim is the most important point. And then the last part is responding to an alternative perspective. So you have to address whatever is in the prompt, the other perspective, and you can do refutation, you can concede, or you can do a rebuttal. I don't know why you would concede your point in a argumentative essay. It's basically saying, oh, yep, actually they're right, I'm wrong. That's not what an argumentative essay is. So the best thing is to refute the point or to give a rebuttal to the point where you say, so some people might say the opposite. Some people might say that an elite democracy is better fit for the people, but, and then give the reasoning why your point is the strongest point. So response to an opposing or alternative perspective using refutation, concession, or rebuttal. Must describe an alternate perspective and refute, concede, or rebut that perspective. Again, to earn this point, the response must have a defensible claim or thesis. If you don't have a defensible claim or thesis, you cannot get the last point. Okay. And you have to show knowledge, demonstrates responses that demonstrate an incorrect understanding of the alternate perspective do not earn this point. So you have to show that you can address, you acknowledge, you are knowledgeable about the other point, but yours is the best point. Why yours is right and that one's not. Any questions? Okay, so we're going to look at just the claim piece first. Response to a prompt with a defensible claim. I'll show you an example. Let's go with this one. Okay, so this is an example of a argumentative essay prompt. So the prompt, the part that it's about, this kind of addresses what the argumentative essay is going to be about. The framers believed that a constitution was necessary to create a stable political system that would protect individual rights. However, understanding the need for political change, they included a process to amend the Constitution. Okay, so here is what you have to argue. Develop an argument that takes a position on whether the process to amend the United States Constitution should be simplified. So you have 2 options here. What are your 2 options to defend? You have 2 choices. Elliot?
You can defend whether a large government, a large central government is better than looking for,
You're on the right track, but that's not quite right. That's not what it's asking you to defend. What's it?
whether you're for or against the amendment process?
Not for or against it. We're on the right. We're getting closer though.
Whether you should simplify the process to amend the Constitution.
Whether you believe that the amendment process should be simplified or left as is. Right? Left as is. So should we keep the amendment process as is, or should it be simplified? So you have to know the amendment process. It's a two-step process, right? The amendment process requires proposal by whom? Who proposes an amendment? Congress. Specifically, which part of Congress? Or what majority of Congress? It's not majority. 2/3. 2/3 of Congress can propose an amendment, correct? Is that right? Yes? Yes, yes. 2/3 of Congress proposes an amendment. Then once it's proposed, where does it go for ratification? Somebody said it. Where? After proposal, where does it go to be ratified? The states. Exactly. So 2/3 of Congress proposes an amendment, and what majority of the states can ratify the amendment? 3/4. Very good. 2/3 of Congress proposes, 3/4 of states ratify it. Is that easy to do? No, it's not. Right? If you don't count the Bill of Rights, which were the original part of the Constitution, ratified in 1789, the Constitution has been amended 17 times in 230 years. 17 times in 230 years. Not very often. Okay? It's a deliberate process. It's a super majority of Congress in the states. It includes both the federal government and the state governments. It's hard to do. Okay? So should we simplify it or should we leave it as is? It's hard to do. Should we make it easier or not? That's what you have to defend. Okay? And then what I always tell you is to look at your pieces of evidence you have to use. You have to use either Federalist 10, Brutus 1, or Article 5 of the Constitution. Article 5 is what? The amendment process. The amendment process. So Federalist 10, Brutus 1, Article 5, you have to use one of those to provide evidence to support your claim. That yes, it should be made easier, or no, we should leave it as is. Okay? So what I want you to do right now, just jot down on this paper or on a spare piece of paper, I want you to write a claim. I want you to write a claim with a line of reasoning. What is your claim? Develop an argument that takes a position on whether the process to amend the United States Constitution should be simplified. But remember, you have to provide a line of reasoning behind that.